My first priority is to advocate for a viable solution for the cleanup of the lagoon, along with a proper disposal of lagoon waste. Also champion for science partnerships with local schools and allow children to assist with restoration efforts of the lagoon, teaching children ecological awareness and environmentalism. My second priority would be to sit with some home builders and developers to figure out a viable solution for affordable housing. There's a shortage of affordable housing here in Brevard County, and the cost of living continues to increase. So there are families that are native to Brevard that are a paycheck away from being homeless, and some of the families did not come with the larger corporations here. People shouldn't have to just work to pay high rent amounts. So those would be two of my top priorities.
My top priorities include restoration of the lagoon, and by extension with respect to that, also an increased focus on infrastructure in the form of sewer and storm drain repairs. So that I'll be able to hit the ground running once I start up in November. I've already met with different subject matter experts, including water chemists, including environmental engineers, to get a better idea in terms of the specific nature of the problem. And boiled down, in essence, there are two main issues. There's a lack of flow with essentially a stagnant body of water, and then there's the issue of excessive nutrient loading, that the body of water and the organisms therein aren't able to break down fast enough. In terms of the focus from a county perspective, I think that we have to look at both simultaneously. The focus has been a little bit too one-sided, in my opinion, over the past several years. Demucking or dredging, or a combination of the two, has been used and has been touted by some as almost a silver bullet or a cure-all. And while I do support efforts to demuck and to dredge in certain specific areas where there is a problem that needs to be alleviated, demucking and dredging doesn't address in a permanent fashion the underlying issue of either the decreased flow, the low flow, or alternatively, the issue with excessive nutrient loading. The nutrients are going to continue to be loaded, and the body of water isn't increasing any meaningful amount in terms of flow based upon either the dredging or the demucking. It's kind of like a fish tank. When you clean a fish tank after a period of time, the water still remains stagnant, and you still continue to feed the fish, and the fish do what fish do, and you end up right back where you started. So I think it's useful, but it's not a cure-all. More specifically, I think that in terms of looking at flow, we need to examine the possibility of using culverts or increasing areas where water can flow. And then we have to look as well to state and federal funding so that we as a county don't bear all of the cost for some of these items that have been exacerbated based upon the state roads that crisscross the lagoon. We have to look at treating more stormwater prior to it being released to the lagoon. And lastly, we need an objective way to measure progress. And I would suggest in the inexpensive form of nutrient monitoring stations, which are already partly up there, but we need to increase the number that we have.
So I've actually had the opportunity through some of my new friends that are heavily involved with the lagoon cleanup. I've done some oyster reefs, and I've had the opportunity to do some mangroves. I don't have a green thumb. I probably have more of a brown thumb, but it was fun. It was an experience. And I also have been working behind the scenes prior to even running, working with some scientists here in the area and some local schools to get some of the kids out to do various projects, oyster reefs, mangroves, planting. So I'm really excited about that project, working with some of the principals and those scientists to get that off the ground. And when elected, I'm going to talk to all the organizations who are advocates for the lagoon and residents. I've met a lot of passionate residents, especially over on the Merritt Island side. They are, really heavy into the lagoon. I also want to start programs to get other people that are not on the barrier islands, let's say for instance in Cocoa and Rockledge. Some of those people's issues aren't the same issues as the issues beachside, but I want them to be aware that, whatever they are doing on the mainland will affect, what's happening to our lagoon as well. And I've been to, like I said, many town hall sessions regarding lagoon restoration. And many people have professional backgrounds. And I think when they go to the county commission meetings, they're heard but not heard. And most importantly, I would listen and also take in the science and technology that is out there, telling us how to proceed to get our lagoon back to how it used to be. Yes, I think that impact fees should be used for the expansion and off-site capital improvements, and this would reduce some of the economic burden. So I just don't believe in mixing different pots of money.
I don't support impact fees. I do believe that the end goal is a good one, and I think there are other ways to achieve the same ends. More specifically, when building plans are submitted to the county, I believe the onus ought to be placed onto the actual developers to indicate how specifically they've accounted for the concerns that pertain to infrastructure. A good example in my district is in North Merritt Island. There's an issue with respect to flooding, and a lot of concerns have been expressed by the folks that live up there with respect to additional development increasing that already existing problem. Whether it's in the form of an increased volume of drainage retention area or different grading, I believe that we can accomplish the same goals again without the actual need to impose additional fees on developers. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is defining restoration may be somewhat problematic. The bottom line, though, with respect to my view on it, is that the tax money is set out for a particular purpose, and we should not deviate from that purpose. So I would be inclined only to use it for those items which directly or indirectly benefit the lagoon.
Yes, I fully support the maintaining of the Save the Lagoon tax fund, and the fund should only be used for lagoon restorations, period. We shouldn't be using that money for anything else.